TIL Gary Larson, creator of the Far Side comics, is teaching himself digital art and has started to make new comics again. I still have Midvale, School for the Gifted in a frame in my bathroom. I've chuckled at it so many times over the years. Gary's comics had such an influence on me as a kid. I still call any kind of animal food FUD in reference to one of his cartoons. It was two dogs standing in front of a clothes dryer with a handwritten sign on it that said something like, "Cat FUD," with an arrow pointing inside the dryer, and a weary cat was lurking nearby. I'm happy he's drawing again. The greatest single-panel cartoonist of all time. Growing up, my extended visits to the bathroom were always enhanced by a few pages of Far Side. By law, every science lecture has to contain one Gary Larson cartoon. Don't tell him though, he gets very jealous about copyright. Fucking cow tools. This is great. I've hung onto my Far Side gallery books so my kids can look at them one day. Cool to know he'll be producing more. TIL Gary Larson is still alive. I assumed when his comics stopped, he must have passed away. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he eats for his whole life. Teach a fish to man and things get really weird, but you can probably to make a career out it. Cool. The game is afoot indeed. I miss his work. This is great news. I don't want to mislead anyone here. This corner of the website new stuff is not a resurrection of the Far Side daily cartoons. Well, not exactly. Anyway, like the proverbial tiger and its stripes, I'm pretty much stuck with my sense of humor. Aren't we all? The thing is, I thoroughly enjoyed my career as a syndicated cartoonist, and I hope, in spirit at least, we had some laughs together. But after 15 years of meeting deadlines, well, blah blah blah, you know the rest. The day after I retired from syndication, it felt good not to draw on a deadline. And after moving on to other interests, drawing just wasn't on my to-do list. Things change. But then a few years ago, and returning to the subject at hand, something happened in my life, and it started with a clogged pen. Despite my retirement, I still had intermittent connections to cartooning, including my wife's and my personal Christmas card. Once a year, I'd sit myself down to take on Santa, and every year it began with the same ritual, me cursing at, and then cleaning out, my clogged pen. Apparently, the concept of cleaning it before putting it away each year was just too elusive for me. As problems go, this is admittedly not exactly on the scale of global warming, but in the small world of my studio, it was cataclysmic. Okay, highly annoying. So a few years ago, finally fed up with my once loyal but now reliably traitorous pen, I decided to try a digital tablet. I knew nothing about these devices but hoped it would just get me through my annual Christmas card ordeal. I got one, fired it up, and lo and behold, something totally unexpected happened. Within moments, I was having fun drawing again. I was stunned at all the tools the thing offered, all the creative potential it contained. I simply had no idea how far these things had evolved. Perhaps fittingly, the first thing I drew was a caveman. The new stuff that you'll see here is the result of my journey into the world of digital art. Believe me, this has been a bit of a learning curve for me. I hail from a world of pen and ink, and suddenly I was feeling like I was sitting at the controls of a 747. True, I don't get out much. But as overwhelmed as I was, there was still something familiar there, a sense of adventure. That had always been at the core of what I enjoyed most when I was drawing the Far Side, that sense of exploring, reaching for something, taking some risks, sometimes hitting a home run and sometimes coming up with cow tools. Let's not get into that. But as a jazz teacher once said to me about improvisation, you want to try and take people somewhere where they might not have been before. I think that my approach to cartooning was similar. I'm just not sure if even I knew where I was going. But I was having fun. So here goes. I've got my coffee, I've got this cool gizmo, and I've got no deadlines. And to borrow from Sherlock Holmes, the game is afoot. Again, please remember, I'm just exploring, experimenting, and trying stuff. New stuff. I have just one last thing to say before I go, thank you, clogged pen. Gary Larson. After this, I imagine Bill Watterson is getting at least one free tablet a day in the mail. I think of Mr. Larson every time I try to open a door incorrectly. There's an excellent documentary now. Episode about him. Pretty much what happened to a cartoonist friend. He also avoided the change quite long, and once he got a pad and pen, he has been producing so much more since, and the modern painting tools complement his style. Don't forget that. Coming to the Thagomizer, which is now officially part of a dinosaur. I don't think I'll ever forget the cartoon of the cows standing on their hind legs on a hillside having a casual conversation, when another cow hollers "car" as a distant car approaches, and the cows all return to their pastoral habit of being on all fours and chewing their cud. I remember the first time I saw it and couldn't stop laughing. Funny how things stick with you over the years like that. There's a fairly active subreddit dedicated to him if anyone was interested. Thought it would have been shared by now. r/the far side, https://www. reddit.com/r/the far side/. Edit. Looks like there's not much actual Far Side comics on there because of copyright claims. Sad. This is wonderful news. Far Side, Calvin and Hobbes, and Perry Bible Fellowship have always been my favorite comics. TIL Gary Larson is still alive. My grandfather knew Gary in college at Washington State. Said he watched his pet snake for him once, and that the guy always had lots of pets. Explains some of the animal influence. When I was in 3rd grade, I gave my PE teacher, Mr. Johnson, this, https:// imager.com/32mg6lt. JPG, Far Side comic panel. My mum put me up to it, and still thinks it's hilarious 20 years later. Primitive scientists Thak and Gork testing out their new time log is maybe my favorite single panel cartoon ever. Cow Tools 2. The Revenge. Documentary now. Has a hilarious episode of Fred Armisen trying to find Gary Larson for an interview or something, I believe in the latest season. You know, even though he has an address and everything. For anyone who's wondering, Gary Larson is 69 years old. Nice. Saw him speak in Seattle at the National Science Teacher Convention in 1998. Laughed my ass off. This is awesome. I had all his books. I love his humor so much. That is simply wonderful. The Far Side was a pinnacle of my childhood. I'd love to see his humor plopped into the current. Cow Tools. Bottom text. Hey, something good in 2020. Gary Larson and the Far Side was massive and was a cultural phenomenon in the 80s/90s especially. Now we just need Bill Watterson to make some new Calvin and Hobbes. Bill Watterson, take notice. Guy went to my high school. The crazy scientist character was based off one of the teachers there. It's basically spot on. Love his work, he is a gift to mankind. Bummer of a birthmark, Hal. Probe and release. Yes. Yay. This is very good news. Oh, Gary Larson calendar, best news I've heard this week. 3 new comics? I'll take it. I also grew up with the off-the-wall calendars, and remembering the utter disappointment when I opened up another calendar that Christmas. A lot of them stuck with me, but none more than the penguin on his back on a sheet of ice with a banana peel. No words needed for that one, but for some reason it struck me hilarious. The absurdity of it. So simple but so funny. I miss his comics. Now get Bill Watterson to do it too. / puts arms up and looks behind himself at the burning rubble of shit that is 2020, looks ahead and sees miles of more burning shit to come, but squints and sees the tiny light of hope that is Larson creating comics again, and smiles as a single warm tear forms at the corner of an eye and begins to stream down his cheek / it's going to be okay.